We're going to talk for about 10 minutes, and then we're going to go meet you brought a robot.
I brought a robot. That's Digit over there.
Yep, and it's comforting to me to know that there's one of your employees is sitting in the back with a red button. So, presumably,
nothing to be afraid of.
A safety precaution.
Just being safe.
Well, Peggy, I mean, humanoid robots might be the only thing hotter than generative AI right now. Just predictions of like $1 trillion industry by 2050. How confident are you that this is the moment? I feel like there have been a lot of starts and stops in robotics. How close are we to seeing these deployed even beyond the scale that they already are, and in particular, humanoid robots?
Right. So it's happening. We have actually had Digit working in a commercial environment for a year. Actually, it was a year ago today. But what's happened, it's been a convergence of a lot of things. There's been better batteries. We're getting ready to put a 10-to-1 ratio, work-to-charge ratio in Digit. So you can charge it for 10 minutes. It can operate for 100 minutes. It can work all day long that way. Obviously, AI. I mean, AI changed the game for us because instead of having an engineer program what Digit would do, AI can now help teach it skills. It's much faster to learn new skills and at a much lower cost. And then just the actuators themselves, which are the motors that move all the limbs, there's been a lot of good innovation in that area. So all of that's come together now to make this a reality.
Mm-hmm. Peggy, Digit has legs, has arms, has eyes on a head. I mean, these are things that evolution has given us probably to like run away from bears, right? So why is a humanoid form an optimum form for a warehouse, for a robot in a warehouse or on an assembly line?
Right. So we think of it as being human-centric. We are not trying to rebuild a human. We're not doing biomimicry, for instance, and just making a human form, because it doesn't always mean that's the right form for environments like this. But our world is built for humans. So there's narrow aisles, shelving goes up about as high as humans can reach overhead, and that's what makes a human-centric device really the right device for environments like this. So the two legs are great for stability. It can go up and down stairs, uneven surfaces. There's also wheeled robots, and there's use cases for those. But for places that humans go that have those perturbations in the walkways, humanoids are the right answer.
And is there conviction at Agility that humanoid is the form, or will you do wheeled robots? Do you have different attachments for the arms? How flexible are you in solving problems for your customers?
Yeah, so we are pretty flexible. For instance, the hands or the grippers, we're already swapping those out and putting the right tool in Digit's hands for the right task. So sometimes it's a paddle grip that's rubberized on the end. Other times it's sort of 2 fingers and 2 thumbs. We can put a 5-finger hand on. Turns out you don't use 5 fingers that often. If you look at humans, it's actually a weird evolutionary thing that I think came from fish or something, why we have 5 fingers. But you rarely need 5 fingers. You need dexterity and fine usability, but not so much 5 fingers. But if there is a job that calls for that, we can put a 5-finger hand.
Is there anything that you've designed into Digit purely for the comfort factor to be a relatable associate to human workers in a warehouse?
Yeah, actually, one of our founders, Jonathan Hurst, he thinks about that a lot. For instance, the color, it's blue, actually teal. My brand people would say it's teal. It's a very calm color. It's not the robot of our nightmares or, sci-fi movies that you've seen. It turns out you don't need a head, but we put a head on because that is also a comfort factor for people. You can see when the robot is turning and looking, but those cameras could just be on the body, but the head gives it a bit of a humanity connection. And turns out that goes a long way when you're introducing these into these environments for the very first time.
So Agility was founded in 2015. Then this is before the invention of transformer architecture, the release of ChatGPT, which you mentioned. So talk a little bit about how these developments in AI have supercharged the opportunity for the company?
Right. So because the company's been around for quite a while, it spun out of Oregon State University. And essentially, they had developed already a dynamically stable robot. So it's always energized, it's always stabilizing itself. So that's using traditional control methods because that's all they had. But because we have the ability to operate a robot based on those methods, we can now interleave AI in where we need it. So for instance, we use it quite a bit in reinforcement learning for teaching Digit new skills. Picking something up, setting it down. We could use a lot of reinforcement learning. We've actually used that for about 3 years.
What models?
I'm not sure on reinforcement learning. What we're using today is Gemini. Is the foundation model we're using today. We actually are AI agnostic. We're not sure which foundation model will actually take the lead. And so we've built the robot to, we can swap out AI models underneath. The other way that we use AI is what we'll be showing off today. We use large language models for Digit's semantic intelligence. So initially, how it's actually used in the field is to author workflows. So we step into a facility and the task is pick something up off of an autonomous mobile robot and set it down on this conveyor belt. And we can use the large language models to help us train Digit on those workflows. And that has definitely shortened the time of getting up and running. When we come to a new facility, we can be up and running in about a day and a half.
You mentioned that Digit has been deployed commercially for about a year. So tell us about that. What is the robot we see on stage doing right now?
The deployed one is at, we have a number of them at GXO, which is a third-party logistics provider. So these are companies that are moving product through. You order something, the order gets fulfilled in this center and then sent out for shipping. It happens to be moving Spanx, which are women's undergarments. That's what it's very good at moving right now. And it's essentially, as the robots, the orders come in, they roll up on an AMR, autonomous mobile robot. Digit unloads it and puts it on a conveyor belt. And you might say, well, why don't you just have some machinery in between? The problem is a lot of this automation is from different companies, and it really wasn't built so much to connect. So while there's islands of automation in these big warehouse facilities, there's still a human in parts of it who picks a box up from here and puts it there. And they're terribly repetitive jobs. It's usually part of someone's job and not their full day-long task. But no one wants those jobs. There's about 1 million of them that are unfilled right now in the US alone.
And many of those millions are at Amazon, which is a partner of yours. There was a recent report that Amazon is developing right here in San Francisco a kind of robot park to test, I guess, different kinds of delivery robots to see what the potential is for robots to come into their fleet. Is Agility a part of that? And what do you see as the practicality of that opportunity?
We're not a part of that. However, it's definitely a problem that needs to be solved, because you can imagine, the delivery truck rolls up. How great would it be if the robot jumped out, took the package, set it on your porch, took a picture, and got back in? It would save them a lot of time. So I completely understand why they're looking at it. I think it's a long road. There's a lot of obstacles. There's a lot of inconsistencies. These sorts of environments, factory environments, are very disciplined. There's a lot more consistency. And so we can get out there and get deployed and start collecting data. That data then feeds into the foundation models that can help us train. So it's going to be a long road, but it'll be great when
the family dog is already bothered when a human comes up to the door to deliver a package.
My dog hates the Amazon.
Can you imagine when a robot clomps up there?
Exactly, yeah. So there's things that, a bike's in the way, or a skateboard, or child.
So are they too early in experimenting with delivery robots?
I think you're never too early for, working on innovation. But the thing that is of utmost importance in all of this, people say, oh, AI was the big unlock. actually, the biggest bar is safety. You have to operate these safely. If you don't, you won't be allowed in the customer's facilities. You're definitely not going to be allowed in homes if the robots come in and act out of control. So that is really the biggest bar. And we've been working on that at Agility. Right now, all of the robots have to be within work cells. So they're about waist high. Humans aren't in there. Robots aren't outside. But this year, we are going to be demoing what's known as cooperatively safe robots. And that means Digit can come outside of the work cell, be in close proximity to humans. You can give it a command like, go pick something up off the shipping dock on the other side of the facility, and it can walk along the aisles that humans are walking along. It has to do it safely in order to be able to come outside that work cell. So all of those things have to be solved before the delivery man's going to drop off your package.
One more question before we interrogate Digit.
Okay.
We published a story recently about the explosion of robotic companies and innovation in China. I think we said there's something like 50 or 60 robotic startups in China. Robots are doing everything from running half marathons to doing jiu-jitsu competitions. As you kind of survey the state of innovation in the US, are we behind? And should we be concerned about that?
I think as far as the state of innovation, no. Most of those robots aren't built for work, for the things that, which is the entry point for these robots today. They can do some interesting things. A lot of times it's backflips or making coffee or something, but not really useful work. These robots can pick up to 50 pounds on our next generation. So they're great for the education of robotics, getting people interested. But as far as humanoids, they've got to check that safety box before they can come into any of the facilities here. And that's a big bar that we haven't seen much of out of the Chinese robots.
All right, will you show us what Digit can do?
Yes,
All right.
So we're gonna...
Man with the red button, please be on alert.
Yeah. All right, come on over. You can get a little closer.
Okay.
All right, so a couple things before we start. I am going to give Digit a command here so that you can see it's not pre-canned or anything. Typically in a warehouse environment, it would be talking to the warehouse management system. That's how the commands would come in. But so you can see the command that I'm giving it, and on the screen back here, you'll see what I say, and then Digit's thought process, how it works through the command and then executes.
And is it communicating with the cloud?
It is. So you're going to see some lag. That's not Agility's issue. There's some link lags, and also just the state of AI models right now to do real-time feedback. You'll see a little of that. Also, for safety purposes, we've slowed Digit down greatly. So you'll see a slower version of it in the facilities where we're deployed. When they're inside of a work cell, we can speed it back up. But for day, that's what we're going to do. So what we have here is something I think everybody can relate to: sorting laundry. My husband has still not learned this at all, but I'm going to ask Digit to pick up some of there's a bunch of T-shirts here, different colors, and put it in the basket. And I'm going to send it in via this. So I'm going to actually state it here. Put the blue shirt into the laundry hamper. So it's taken it in. You can see my input there. Digit will now pick up the blue shirt of all the shirts, put it into the laundry.
And how much faster would it be moving if you hadn't put these restrictions on it?
It would be quite a bit faster, but still within safety considerations. Digit's 5'9" when it's standing up all the way. We'll see that at the end. And 160 pounds. And our next one will be a little bit heavier. Digit's going to gain a little weight because we're going to put some more battery in there. Mm-hmm. And that's why we just want to stay safe here. So next, I'll say just to change.
I think it missed. Well, you said put the blue shirt,
the blue
singular.
Shirt,
so
yeah.
okay.
I'll say you got me there. I'll do another one. Hold on. Put both white shirts into the basket. So he's thinking, I said both, it said two, and move them into the basket. Last time I said laundry hamper. So he's thinking here. I think those are Bloomberg.
These are
Tech shirts. I
Bloomberg
just
Tech
noticed
shirts.
that.
Yes, they can take one home as a souvenir.
Yeah, for sure.
And while it's hopefully retrieving the second one, tell us what
He's thinking, Brad.
From a safety perspective, and I'm not asking this out of self-interest, but what are the things that triggers the safety mechanisms?
Okay, so for instance, we fumbled that a little bit.
This is how I fold laundry.
It's how my husband folds, for sure. He actually never folds the laundry. He just puts them in the drawer. Okay, we're going to try another one here.
Okay.
Pick up a black shirt and put it into the laundry hamper. I was singular with that one. From here, I wasn't sure if that was dark gray, and there was a black one. So. Fancy.
Yeah. All right.
Fancy, yeah. So this is not the sort of thing we're doing today in factories.
Yeah.
This is some of our innovation work that we're working on and putting in different AI models, and basically teaching every day new and more skills, and AI is just supercharged.
And how much mobility are your customers taking advantage of? Are these on the floor of an Amazon warehouse? Are these
they are on
digits roving around?
Yeah,
Like their first generation of robots?
Inside the work cells. Yeah, we stay inside the work cell, and they're doing different things at different places. We have a company, Schaeffler, which is a components manufacturer. They're based in Germany, and we've been working at one of their facilities on the East Coast. And they have they have to wash machine parts. They're very greasy, and they get thrown into a metal bin, and Digit takes them and loads those into the washer and does that for them. So it's all in the same area of material handling, but it is a multi-purpose robot. It can do variations on all those things, but then as we proceed, we'll add more and more skills. And obviously AI is helping us do that.
Do you want to show us one more?
We could do one more. I see a gray shirt there. Okay. Pick up the gray shirt and put it into the basket.
So as it processes that, I mean, we've seen some truly stratospheric investment rounds and valuations for humanoid robot companies. How much of that is based on the future promise of humanoid robots in warehouses, and how much of it is, purely based on the kinds of progress we're seeing here today and the implementations that companies, manufacturers are making use of?
Yeah, I think the vision is all correct. There will be, I think Elon talks about, hundreds of thousands of robots.
I wanted to ask you about that.
Yeah.
Do we believe, Elon says Optimus is leading the field.
Yeah.
Do you, how many grains of salt do you take that with?
Well, actually, as long as that safety bar can be met, that's not insurmountable. But we don't see much focus on safety in the humanoid industry right now. We're actually working with the US government to help write the humanoid regulatory requirements. We feel very, very strongly about safety, and that is the bar that has to be met. But when that's met, I mean, the sky's the limit.
Well, do you worry that some of your competitors, like Elon, might be overpromising and compromising on safety?
I think whatever he does in his factory is fine. I have to go to these other factories that all have pretty high safety bars. Actually, Amazon's is probably the highest, as you might imagine. And to meet their bar, we feel pretty good about that, because that allows us to get into all these other facilities. And that's all I'm focused on right now.
And then last question, do you feel like robots like Digit will play a role in returning industry and manufacturing back to the United States?
I do. I think it'll look different. So industry and manufacturing, as it starts to reshore, by the way, right now, manufacturing jobs are also part of this very severe labor gap. People don't usually wake up and say, I want to go into a manufacturing job. They can't find people to do these jobs. It's going to have to rely on more automation and to humanoids to a certain degree if that is to happen. So absolutely, it will be part of that wave.